Today we welcome Farzan Ghavanini, Smoltek's CTO, to the studio for a talk about the company's CNF-MIM technology for ultra-thin capacitors, how close it is to market, and the upcoming milestones in 2024. So welcome to the studio, Farzan.
Thank you very much, Yuan. Great to be here.
Can you start by giving us a short overview on your capacitor technology and based on nanotechnology platform of Smoltek?
Absolutely. I can give a broader overview.
Perfect.
And so the CNF-MIM technology is based on more than 15 years of research at the Smoltek, building a nanotechnology platform. Itself is built on more than 20 years of research at Chalmers University. So you can imagine how much work and research has gone into this. And the core asset in this platform is a proprietary process, is a patent-protected process that, as a Smoltek, we call it the SmolGrow. Is in principle is a plasma-enhanced chemical vapor deposition method. Is a catalytic process. In this process, we deposit catalyst particle on a wafer, we put it in a chamber, and then the fibers start to grow exactly at those positions. So it's a very deterministic process. So it gives us a high level of control over the position and over the qualities of these nanofibers. And that's very important. And based on that, the SmolGrow process, we have built two growth chambers. One of them is a 6-inch tool that we are using every day in our development. And we also have an 8-inch tool that is helping us now in the next phase where we are going to mass production, providing the volume. And I think we feel very confident with having that in place. Another very important aspect of this technology platform is all the processes that we have developed over the years that we use after the fibers are grown to convert these fibers into an actual device. And these processes are off-the-shelf CMOS processes, and we have made a lot of efforts to make sure they are processes that are commercially meaningful. And needless to say, we have a strong IP portfolio that protects these processes and the know-how that we have. We have 19 families, and as of today, I think we have 89 granted patents in these 19 families.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, that has been a lot of work that has gone into this platform development over the years.
So can we move on a little bit to the markets for these? Which market segments you are targeting? Why there is such a strong need for high-performing ultra-thin capacitors, and why you think that your CNF-MIM technology is so well suited for creating the problems to solve this need and challenges there are?
Absolutely, it's a very good question. So let's start by ultra-thin capacitors in general.
Yeah.
So why they're relevant, why there's a market for them. So the most important quality of this ultra-thin capacitor is that they offer a large capacitance in a very small size. And that's very important because you have large capacitance density. But the very small size is also very important. Number one is that they lead to a very small parasitic inductance and resistance. These are two important KPIs for a capacitor. And the fact that they are very small is also very important because you can place them very close to the processor. And why is that important? It's because, in all the new processors today, AI processors, high-performance computing processors, mobile phones, you have many millions of transistors. They are turning on and off at the same time, at a very high frequency. So at a very short period of time, they draw a lot of current, a lot of charge, a lot of electrons. The way to solve this is to create a reservoir of electrons, of charge. This reservoir is a capacitor. And that has a lot of charge in it, waiting for this. Yeah. And in order to be able to cope with this demand, this capacitor need to respond extremely fast. So in technical terms, this fast responding time translates to very low ESL and very low ESR. And now, because also, as I said, they are very small, we can place them extremely close to the processor. In principle, we could place them right under the landing side of this processor. Mm-hmm. That's why we call them land side capacitors. Or embed them in the PCB, also very close to the processor. So that's why they're very important, and they're going to be even more important in the near future as the performance of this processor increases. Now, you also ask, why CNF-MIM?
Yeah.
So to answer that, let me take a step back. So right now, this market, ultra-thin capacitor, is dominated by one technology, and that is silicon trench capacitors. You may ask, how do they make this? So they start with silicon, they dig holes, and they cover it with metal and dielectric, and then they build a capacitor, a 3D capacitor. So in our case, we start with carbon nanofibers. These carbon nanofibers are extremely thin and extremely tall. In technical terms, they have very high aspect ratio. Mm-hmm. Something that has very high aspect ratio has a very high ratio of surface to volume. They consume very little space, but they give you very high density of surfaces. And compared to silicon trenches, we can easily get a factor of 10 of surface density. This is the surface density that is exploited later on to create a high capacitance. Mm-hmm. And so our challenge at the Smoltek is to use this feature and convert that successfully to a capacitance, something that is already there. We just need to build a device that exploits this full potential.
And make it work in the right situations.
Exactly, exactly. And that is exactly what we are working on.
Yeah. So the next question follows naturally. How far have you come with your CNF-MIM technology?
Yeah, we have come a long way, actually. And I think we can go into details in later questions. But if we take a step back again and look at a high-level helicopter view, so to say. Mm-hmm. So I would say that there are two groups of achievements, so to say. One is the technical viability. We have shown that this technology can be used to produce high-performing capacitors. Mm. This is what we have done in last year, and lately we have finalized our very first generation of samples. Internally, we call that Gen-Zero. Yeah. In that Gen-Zero, we showed exactly that. We showed that we can build a capacitor with competing performance based on these carbon nanofibers. The second part is the commercial viability. Not only is it possible to make a capacitor, but it's possible to make that in a commercially meaningful way, in a price range that is competitive to what we already have in the market. And for that, we have done a thorough work last year. We have calculated exactly how much it costs. We have hundreds of processes in building this capacitor. So it was important to go through each single step and estimate the cost, associate the cost, and then add up and see how much would it cost. And this is what we have done. We know that is commercially viable. And on top of that, we have also managed to build our 8-inch growth tool. Yeah. That has been a big milestone for us. This will enable us to be able to ramp the production whenever it's needed in a scale that is industrially relevant.
Mm. So you've come a really long way, one could say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to some things. Yeah. Mm. Gen-Zero is very interesting, and can you talk a little bit more about the challenges you have solved in this generation of CNF-MIM?
Absolutely. So the most important challenge, in my opinion, that we have now solved successfully is that to show that we could cover our carbon nanofibers conformally with the dielectric stack. As I just mentioned in the previous question, is that our fibers have an extremely high aspect ratio. So it's not trivial how you cover them conformally everywhere. You know, the carbon nanofibers that we have, they are one of the two electrodes in the capacitor. And these two electrodes are separated by this film of dielectric stack. So it was very important to show that we can do this. And the results from Gen-Zero shows that there are no leakages from one electrode to the other electrode through this dielectric stack. So I think that I would say that is one of the major challenges that we have solved. The second group of challenges is a lot of under categories, so to say, in this challenge. But the important thing here is that for the very first time, we moved away from a research clean room, from a university clean room, to an industrial setup, a foundry. And that required changing a number of process steps and adapting a number of other process steps so that we could actually successfully port, so to say, this processing from the research facility to a foundry. And we managed to do that successfully. And now we are able to fabricate our capacitors in a foundry using off-the-shelf, and that's very important, off-the-shelf processes. The only process that doesn't exist today is the carbon nanofiber growth, which we provide, which we have, and we have the tool for it, as I said, the 8-inch
Yes,
tool.
you said.
Exactly. And I think these two groups of challenges has been very important for us to overcome. We have also in Gen-Zero, for the very first time, we built a capacitor that has as a standard form factor, is a 0402 capacitor, 100 micrometer thick, and most importantly, it's solderable. So if our customers want to measure that or test that, they don't need to have fancy probing systems that usually found in research institutes. They could just take the chip, the die that we have, and the solder it on top of PCB, and they're ready to go.
Quick and easy, yeah.
Yes, I think that would...
That's important, yeah.
Absolutely, and help the development cycle. We get feedback fast, we could act on fast, and then, have the loop in a shortest possible time.
So the follow-up question there is, of course, how good does the Generation Zero perform, and how does it stack up towards the silicon trench technology of your competitors?
Exactly. No, it's a very good question. And as I said, the most important parameter in an ultra-thin capacitor is the capacitance density. So what's the fair way to compare us to our competitor? And the answer is you need to use a parameter called volumetric capacitance density. What does that mean? It means that per given volume, a standard volume, how much capacitance you could make with technology A and how much you can do with technology B. And the volumetric capacitance density we achieved in Gen-Zero is up to 120 nanofarad per square millimeter per micrometer of fiber. That's an impressive number. This is already significantly higher than our competitor Murata and is on par with the state-of-the-art capacitors that TSMC is fabricating. But I think I have to also say that although we can provide such a high volumetric capacitance density, we have not yet shown that we could build high-density capacitors. So this is the potential. We have to convert that into reality. So still we have some work to do. So the capacitors we make based on this high volumetric capacitance density are also on par with our competitors. And that in principle means that we need to work on a few key areas in the next generation. Yeah.
So that brings us to the next question, which is, what are you going to achieve in 2024 in the next generation?
Exactly. And then we are working on Gen 1 now, and exactly addressing what I brought up now is that we showed in Gen-Zero we have a very high volumetric capacitance density, but we couldn't really exploit the full potential of that because we could only grow fibers a few micrometers tall. Now in Gen 1, which we are planning to finalize by the end of the year or a little bit into Q1 2025, is that we want to grow fibers up to 10 micrometer tall. You can do the math yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of 1,200 nanofiber per square meter per micrometer, 10 micrometer tall fibers, this already brings you into microfarad per square millimeter region, which is on par with the best capacitor, ultra-thin capacitors in the market. This is the number one goal we have for 2024. The second one, which is equally important, is we are now moving away from an old dielectric stack to a newer dielectric stack that is used currently today in DRAM capacitors. It's also adopted by our competitors in the silicon trench industry. And that on its own will increase the dielectric constant of the stack by a factor of 2 to 3, which would translate directly to the capacitance density. And that is what we are working. We have had excellent results so far. We are working with the research team in South Korea, and we are also working with the foundry in Taiwan. And together, so far, we have actually achieved this. We have very good new dielectric stack on planar surfaces. The next step is that to transfer that to the carbon nanofibers, to this 3D structure. So that's what we are working on right now. The third part is we are also for the first time working on optimizing the design of the capacitors. This is an area we haven't worked so much on. So when you make the capacitor, you also need to think about other aspects of the design. For example, where I inject the current, how the electrodes would exactly look like. It's not fundamental things, but they're engineering things that you have to solve. And we have new ideas. We have filed for 2 patents beginning of this year. We are going to work on those this year, and hopefully by achieving what we have envisioned now, we could also bring the active ratio or the capacitance density in our capacitors one step further. Last but not least is that in Gen 1, for the very first time, we are going to start the qualification process. So qualification process is a long process. It has a lot of components. So of course, we are not going to fully qualify Gen 1 samples, but we are going to do reliability tests. This is the question we are being asked all the time by our customers. Exactly. They ask, how does your capacitor work at 80 degrees C? How does it work in humid conditions? So there are a set of standard conditions that we need to test our capacitors under those conditions. And this is what we are planning to do by the end of the year on Gen 1 samples. So by the end of the year, hopefully we have a new set of capacitors, Gen 1, which are performing much better than Gen 0. And we also have the reliability information of those capacitors. That should be putting us in a very good position to start engaging with a wider range of potential customers or collaboration partners.
So there are a number of aspects that are bringing you forward in 2024.
Absolutely, and I think this is I want to add that as well. This is one of the most important things we achieved in the last 2 years, is that we have shortened the development cycle. So something that took us a year, 2 years ago to develop, now we could do it in a third of the same time. So we could test more things in over a year. We could test new ideas, and we could start measuring the result of our ideas much faster than before. And I think this is something important that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, that's really good. And I don't think everyone has known this, that you have come this far. No.
Yeah, no, perhaps not. Yeah.
So upon reaching these milestones in 2024, how much further work would you say it is before you can put an actual product based on CNF-MIM on the market?
Yeah, and this is a complex question, and I can try to answer as good as I can. So, as I said, by the end of this year, we hope that we have these Gen 1 samples that are, from technology perspective, from performance perspective, are relevant.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we have for the first time the reliability, the first phase of reliability information. With these two, we should be able to start talking to the wide range of customers and collaboration partners. And I think then the next phase after that would be to set up the mass production platform.
Yeah.
And that's a big task. And of course, Smoltek right now doesn't have the muscle to do that on its own. But we really hope that by showing the good results and by showing a reliable performance of this capacitor, we would be able to raise the capital or find the right partner to help us to take the next phase and do a complete set of qualification work on these samples, on this technology. And once this is qualified, then we are in principle in mass production. And of course, there are other things that needs to happen along the way. But it shouldn't be that out of reach.
So, I mean, to sum it up, you have come so far that the major obstacles or the major work that needs to be done has already been done. That should be clarified, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we have been talking already to our partners. We are working very closely still with Yageo.
Yeah.
And although we postponed any commercial collaboration to a later time,
yeah,
but still the technical interest is there, and we are going to work very close with each other. They will evaluate the result of Gen 1 as well as by the end of the year, and hopefully by having the right data in place, it should not be a long way toward mass production.
Yeah. Sounds like you have a really good plan for 2024, and I mean that you are moving ahead at a high pace, maybe even higher than before.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's a correct observation. We are really, I can say that we are really going faster than before. We have shortened the development cycle. The team is really determined. We know the problems, and we know the solutions. Now we need to do them. So I think that summarizes 2024. And I'm pretty sure if we show the good performance, raising the capital we need for the next phase is not a difficult task.
Sounds very hopeful. All right, that's everything I had. So thank you very much for taking the time and answering these questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you.